If you look at Jesus, if you look at how he lived his life, he wasn't married. And if we believe that Jesus lived the perfect life, if we believe he lived a full life as an unmarried man, then it is possible for single people to live a full life. I felt very inspired just to really help equip and empower singles to step into the abundance that they already have as members of the body of Christ, and to feel empowered in their churches and in their communities. But I was finding, particularly with singleness, there wasn't a cohesive ability to have a conversation because there were just so many assumptions that weren't being talked about. What I do is to ask the questions to get to those assumptions, of what do we mean when we're talking about singleness? What assumptions are we putting onto singles? And as singles, what assumptions are we bringing into the conversations that we have about singleness as a Christian? If a church is going to provide resources and a singles ministry, that's amazing. But do you have people who are actually single in the room planning those things? Do you have people in your church who are single up front? Is your entire pastoral and staff married? Because those things are that's going to affect the decisions that you make and how you think you should be ministering to singles and the conversations that you're having surrounding singleness. I think that what's missing in the conversation is singles. I think about singles who maybe feel underrepresented, underheard, underappreciated in their churches. Speaking to those people in the crowd, the ones who have one foot out the door, we're saying, give me just one good reason why I should be here. Singleness can be treated like a disease that stunts your spiritual growth, and it just isn't. If anything, it's so refining. It's so refining to have to rely on Jesus for every part of that type of relational desire, right? That romantic desire, that desire for oneness and that kind of intimacy. To have to fully rely on Jesus for that is incredibly refining. I talk about singleness, but more specifically, I talk about things that are very relevant or particularly relevant for people who are not married. So I talk about relationships, very broadly speaking. I don't really talk about dating that much, but I do talk about friendship, family, community, those kinds of relationships, because they're so important for singles. I talk about relational well-being, talk about mental health, and just the absurdity of being a human being in the world, and what Jesus has to offer.